there are always two people in a selfie. The one you see and the one you really are. No Filter is a Tubi original, written and directed by Michael Dupre. Hope I pronounced that last name correctly. Check out his IMDb page for the full listing of his work. And it stars Hannah Mickiver as Anna. Anna is Hannah. Hannah is Anna. Einhorn is Finkel. Finkel is Einhorn. And my God, that movie is nearly 30 years old. Has nothing to do with No Filter, but my goodness, where has the time gone? Just like Paula Cole asked, where have all the cowboys gone? And there are no cowboys in No Filter. That would have actually been rather hilarious. But there is a best friend for Anna, played by Jasmine Dowd, named Lauren. And they're two best friends just trying to get through their high school days. And Anna was on a summer vacation in Bali with her parents and met another social media influencer named Scott, played by Samuel van der Zwalman. I hope I pronounced that last name correctly. I'm very, very sorry if I got that wrong. And he plays, scary pranks on people and has a big, big old following. And he meets Anna, and oh my God, they just hit it off. They're having fun. They're enjoying themselves. They're really, really having a goddamn blast. And they're visiting various locations in Bali. And then it turns out that there is something that they disturbed in Bali. And they disturbed some Bali ghost swinging. Bali ghost swinging. Oh boy, you don't really want to piss off those Bali ghosts. Yeah, certain weird things start happening. Basically, it's social media influenced with a lot of The Ring and a lot of other stuff like One Missed Call and various other things where certain curses and certain, entities enter, because they would be exities if they were exiting, but nevertheless, basically it is just a social media version of The Ring with actually some pretty good acting, all things considered, and there are a few good, gory parts. I'm not going to necessarily say this movie's scary. I didn't jump once, but I will say that as far as a, independent budgeted effort, there was some good stuff here. There was some good stuff. There was a bit of uneven pacing. I don't know if that had to do with the editing process, and there were a few moments where I was like, okay, that's just that. I've seen stuff like that before. I mean, that's not really anything original, but the positives are way up here. And the negatives, there aren't really even any negatives. It's just normally cliches are way down here. This is actually pretty goddamn entertaining. I had a goddamn blast watching it. I thought Hannah did a terrific job as Anna, playing a conflicted individual who wants a big social media following, but isn't sure if this is basically poisoning her mind, because after that trip to Bali, she really starts acting weird. Lauren is now friends with somebody that apparently had bullied them a couple years prior, but it turns out, she's not actually all that bad. But then certain things start happening, and Anna has to wonder if it's all in her head. Is she happy? Is she feeling bad? Does she have sunshine in a bag? Is she useless? Not for long, because, this entity keeps coming on. One of these days I will stop using that Gorillaz song in my reviews. Today is not that day, though. And from there, we have a horror movie that I took with a little bit of comedy. I think it was intended to be a little bit comedic. If not, and maybe that I'm just desensitized to a lot of horror. But I've also noticed that this is another trend of social media influenced horror. I think this is the 5th or 6th variation of one that I've seen this year. This is certainly one of the better ones. So hopefully Michael Dupre gets a chance to do bigger projects. I'm not familiar with his work, but maybe I'll try to check out some of his other stuff. And Hannah and Jasmine did a good job as the two respective characters. And I will say this movie actually has a pretty good opening. It gets a little bit, it stumbles a little bit as it gets to the second and third act. But the positives do outweigh, any moments. So I would absolutely recommend checking out No Filter, which, by the way, if you check out IMDb, would be under #no_filter. But it's No Filter on Tubi. And Tubi is an ad-based streaming service that's free, totally goddamn free. I'm not sponsored. Why be sponsored? It's just about could social media really poison you? Could it do all these terrible things? Could it actually be something that overtakes your life and causes you to not be, to hear things that aren't there, see things that aren't there, and even fracture your friendships? I mean, these things are kind of all thrown at you, and that isn't anything new. But I think the panic sets in. Hannah does a good job with that, and Jasmine does a really smart thing later in the movie where I'm like, wow, I wish more people did that. That being said, I am going to get into spoilers here. It's on Tubi if you want to check it out. Good stuff overall. Not perfect, but good stuff overall. So anyway, yeah, Hannah and Jasmine, good job. 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay, so basically in the beginning, there was rap, as our Lord and Savior Dr. Dre once said. And Anna ends up exploring, has this phone, it's gaining a social media following, live streaming on some app. I don't know if it's Instagram or Snap. I don't really know, in all honesty. It's a knockoff Instagram. Perhaps they never really mention it. And she meets Scott. And Scott and her come up with this idea to do a prank. Well, Scott ends up getting pranked by her. She's supposed to scare her parents. He gets scared by her. And then, oh great, all this stuff and everything and all, and we don't really see much of their trip. We see it a little bit later on. And then he's getting he's getting set up to do a new trend and everything, and then suddenly Scott ends up, not, running into the wrong person, shall we say, on his phone, because, there's nothing, worth more than a good scare. Well, then he has these filters, and it's a scare pick challenge. That's a hashtag you gotta use, folks, as the kids say. And, well, let's just say Scott is haunted by something. Something that causes him to end his life in a violent way, with a knife in the neck. Hey. And then I did note with the opening credit sequence, with the music and with Anna setting stuff up social media wise, that somebody watched a lot of 90s horror. And that's not bad, because 90s horror is very underappreciated, the good stuff at least. And it's basically The Ring with modern tech. That's pretty much it right there. I mean, not like Rings, where this is actually good, unlike Rings. Everybody hates pineapple, apparently, in this movie, or at least the people that address that. And Anna's dealing with the price of fame, all these haters, all this. The character of Mina is apparently a real bitch. And the question is social media changing Anna? So, she's getting weird messages from people, but she's mostly positive. She's filming everything. She decides, hey, wait a second, I'm going to do a prank where I'm going to play a prank on my friend. Now, she doesn't know, by the way, that Scott's dead. And says Scotty doesn't know, she doesn't know about Scott being dead. That is an old school reference. And she decides to put makeup on and everything and make herself up all like a weird clown, and then she scares her friend in a bathroom stall just for fun, but you shouldn't use your friends for that. And Lauren's like, I'm your friend, and then she's like, but wait a second, Mina was a bitch and bullied us and everything, and no, don't worry, she's not all that bad. And then there's a guy that there's a neighbor or ex-neighbor named Jason that apparently was a big old creep to her and various others. Lauren had to break his nose. And when I heard Jason, I instantly thought a heavy rain glitch. If you get that, you get that. Also, it ruined that part on the beach in Us. Jason! So, she's filming on her way home, and the creepy neighbor's there. And a really, really nice car, by the way. And says, it's like my dad thinks that we live in a 90s slasher movie. Foreshadowing. And her phone's been glitching out, and she gets upset because she's really attached to her phone because of social media fame. And let me tell you right now, folks, I'm not any kind of social media influencer. That's the one thing I do understand, because when you want to make sure your videos do well, and you're all surprised and everything, you're attached to your phone. Sometimes you need to unplug from your phone, though, and just give yourself a break for like 8 or so hours, and just, maybe even a day if possible, and just take it easy. That being said, thank you guys very much for watching these. I really do appreciate it. The accents were coming out like mad. I mean, and I know this was a production apparently in Belgium. And I'm not knocking the actors here. But when they got excited, I'm like, holy shit, this is all over the goddamn European map here. But anyway, there's a neighbor that shows up. She drops off a cake. Jason is still playing his music really loud while this is going on. Jason knows something. What does he know? And it's funny, actually, a little thing with Scott earlier. He did the Scary Pick Challenge thing, and somebody messaged him, a dark girl, saying, you stole my idea. Well, who could this dark girl be? Who could this dark girl be? It's Anna. It's Anna. I think that's probably pretty obvious. So instead of, by the way, locking Jason out of her yard by locking the gate, she doesn't do that. She gets in his car, wondering why, his car is just still on, music's blaring, all this shit's going on. And there are pictures of her. Pictures, it could be photoshopped or whatever. Polaroids. Do people still use Polaroids? I'm amazed. And there's a knife. It cuts like a knife, as Bryan Adams once said. And she sees his body in the goddamn trunk. So now things get really weird, because is she seeing all of this, or is this stuff actually happening? Well, she here's Lauren kind of being, saying like, oh, she's too obsessed with social media. Or is everybody pranking her? Jason has his own channel, but then, it's like he's posting this stuff, but then it turns out he's actually dead. So this entity is apparently something that lives online that can do this stuff. It's a social commentary on unplugging from your goddamn social media, or this demon just hates YouTube. I don't really know. And basically Dark Girl is Anna. She was going to make that as a social, a horror content channel, but decided not to do that. And then she is upset at Lauren, then upset at Lauren. More weird shit happens. She keeps seeing weird shit, going on. She keeps seeing a version of her with very, very dark eyes. And then she researches where this one YouTuber basically says, well, if you get jealous, egotistical, this kind of stuff, if you let dark stuff take over, then the dark side of you will fully take over. You need to find the right balance, because there's two sides to every coin, two sides to every person, all that, And all this stuff's happening in quick succession while she's at her house. And in fact, I think that's where they saved a lot of money. They basically just filmed at and around the house. And Lauren shows up eventually after this one guy had shown up, this guy that Anna liked, and she kills him in the bathtub. And then what ends up happening is Lauren comes and brings a bat. Smart. But now Dark Anna has totally taken over, is doing this, makeup tip thing that's all these dark arts, and uses Lauren's blood after killing her to make a compress. And all this weird shit's happening. And Anna has no idea, because she's being taken over by these dark thoughts. And it turns out that what ended up happening is, on the trip to Bali, Scott and her broke into this temple that you're not supposed to be in, especially after dark, and used a mirror thing. And now this mirror thing somehow has this dark entity part of it. You see this dark soul without the tough boss battles and the one hit kills and all that and everything, and fuck Dark Souls. And basically what ends up happening, Dark Anna ends up taking over. Even after Anna burns this stuff, no, it doesn't work. Her mom's hurt. They're on a trip, like her and the dad are on a trip somewhere. And the neighbor shows up, and the neighbor calls 911, but the neighbor gets killed because Dark Anna has taken over. And that's it. That's it right there. Also, they hint at a sequel because these filters are spreading, because Scott had filters and stole this idea, and now all this crazy shit's going on. So, yeah, overall, pretty goddamn good. I really enjoyed No Filter. Was it great? I mean, sure, if you break it down at all, it really is kind of silly, but I had fun. Anyway, B+. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Rickland. I'll see you soon.